Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney Plus.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're gonna crack this case and prove we're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
You are...
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream team.
New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home.
You're clearly working it.
Zootopia 2, now available on Disney Plus, rated PG.
Pros, just because something on the job runs out doesn't mean you have to. Order it on the Lowe's app. My Lowe's Pro Rewards members get free same-day delivery on eligible orders over $25. Get the fasteners, hardware, or tools you need to keep the job moving. Order by 2 p.m. and get eligible in-stock items delivered right to your job site by 8 p.m. Members get more at Lowe's. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Subject to availability. Restrictions and terms at lowes.com/shipping terms. Subject to change.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game. With me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire, who's still... Kieran, you've got a toothache still. You shouldn't be trying to count down. Anyway, you should be keeping the breeze out of your mouth for as long... Have you done anything about that tooth yet?
Well, I managed to get through to the surgery on attempt number 3, which was a positive. So yes, I'm booked in on Friday. They can't do anything; they can look at it. I said, I'd rather you do slightly more than look at it, but apparently looking at it is all we can do in the NHS these days. So yeah, progress. The trouble is, term starts next week in Liverpool, so I'm straight up there. But I'll be a man hero about it. You know the way we never complain much.
So they can just look at it on Friday, but they can't do anything. What you need is Uncle Terry. He would have sorted it out. Yes. I'm not sure if tying a piece of string to a doorknob and the other end to a tooth ever worked outside cartoons, but I think Uncle Terry would have had that tooth out by now, wouldn't he?
I think he has been known to extract teeth, I believe.
It's Newsday, Kieran. We should point out that we are recording this on Tuesday evening rather than Wednesday morning, so I imagine the Premier League are opening that Man City envelope as we speak. Don't worry, everybody. If that should be the case, toothache or no toothache, lingering cough or no lingering cough, we'll have a Man City special. Don't you worry. And talking of just missing deadlines, Kieran, literally moments after we finished recording last week's news episode, Chelsea posted the biggest losses ever by a Premier League club. Now, was this... It's that time of year, obviously, Kieran, so it's in the realms of conspiracy theory to suggest it had anything to do with the Premier League charges of just a couple of weeks before, of which they scampered off, shall we say. Didn't get off, did they? They scampered off lightly. Nothing to do with those. The timing's nothing to do with that. There's no link between the two stories.
Absolutely not. To be fair to Chelsea's defence, the charges cover the period 2009 to 2018, so it was very much the Abramovich era. These losses, and this is one of the things which grinds my gears. What a club will do is it will put out a press release, a one-pager, and it says the accounts have been submitted or the accounts are being submitted to Companies House. And then when you go to Companies House, there's nothing there. And the reason for this is that some of the clubs or some of the companies will deliberately submit their financials by post rather than electronically. And that means that they have to be scanned in page by page into Companies House, its own scanner, its own photocopying machine. You know how long these things take. And some clubs know it. And Chelsea, to be fair, are not the only organisation that have done this. I've probably got about 7 or 8 clubs in a not dissimilar position, all of whom are on my naughty step. And I always take the view that if you've got nothing to show, or if you've got nothing to hide nothing. So all that it tends to do is to make people such as myself, or Swiss Ramble, or Stefan Borson, or whoever it's going to be, we just tend to go through them with an extra fine comb, trying to work out why is this? You're only delaying things for a week or 2 weeks as a maximum. I'm not quite sure what you're getting out of this. So yes, Chelsea have lost £262 million. That's £5 million a week, and that's after player sales. So had it not been for player sales, it would have been in excess of £300 million. And of course, the first reaction of everybody is, well, how on earth can they have avoided a breach of PSR? And the reason for this is that we go back to our discussion of a year ago and 2 years ago. Chelsea had some related party transactions, which involved selling a hotel to itself, a car park to itself, and a women's team to itself, which brought in profits of around about £270 million, i.e. just enough to wipe out these ones. So we can't really comment any further in detail in terms of the minutiae of the numbers, but you don't want to upset an accountant. You certainly don't want to upset an accountant with toothache. So these will be reviewed when they finally appear with a rather nagging attention to detail by myself and the other people who specialise in this type of thing. I just don't see what clubs get out of it, because it's at the end of the day, it's ancient news. It's to do with the 12 months to the 30th of June 2025, and we're in the middle of April 2026. Yeah. But it's now sort of part of the game, and the clubs like to think that they're getting one over on the media or anybody that's got a significant interest in the finances of individual clubs.
I'm going to contextualise this, Kieran, in the way I always do. Is to say Chelsea have done nothing wrong. Essentially, in terms of, forget the Premier League charges, the Abramovich charges. In terms of their current PSR situation, Chelsea have worked within the rules. But two things: is it fair to say that they've now run out of wriggle room? That they've left themselves nowhere to go? That any avenue, although we've said that about Barcelona every year for the last 6 years, and they seem to find other ways. Is it going to be more difficult for them to work around the rules? And secondly, can you put these losses into some sort of context compared to the previous biggest losses? Where do they stand in terms of the actual scale?
In terms of the scale, the highest ever losses prior to this were Manchester City's losses in 2011-12 of £197 million. Now, that was a season before financial fair play was introduced, so clubs were allowed to do effectively what they wanted. So it is very significant. As far as being on the naughty step is concerned, all the clubs had to submit their accounts to the Premier League by the 31st of December, which again, it seems why, therefore, delay publishing them into the public domain. There seems to be an inconsistency there. And if the Premier League had any major concerns, they would have by now instigated charges against the club. So Chelsea are within the limits. Whether Chelsea are within the limits for the UEFA rules, because UEFA actually have a set of rules which have got genuine teeth in the sense that they have been drafted without the interference of the clubs. The clubs have watered down the rules and the clubs allowed and in fact encouraged until 2 or 3 months ago the sale of real estate to the owners. So that's where Chelsea will not have breached the Premier League PSR limit. They may have breached the limits set by UEFA, but again, I think that they're quite a wily club. They've been very good at player sales over the course of the last 12 months. They've got the benefits of winning the FIFA Club World Cup and the estimated £80 million that brought. So I suspect they might be on a second year of 4, I think it is, in terms of the the business plan that they have to follow from UEFA, but I don't think there'll be any further charges.
You say they're very good at selling players, Kieran, but when a high-profile player says he wants to go to Madrid, they drop him and get the hump with him. I'm assuming Chelsea would have been one of the clubs that voted for the new squad cost rules, will they?
Yes, they were. Yes, it was. It was Brighton, Brentford, Bournemouth, Palace, Fulham, and Leeds, who I think were the 6 clubs who were opposed to it. It was certainly in their interests to go for squad cost rules, because one does anticipate at some point in the future there is going to be an expansion of Stamford Bridge or a decision to move to a new stadium. And given that SCR is all about boosting revenues, any club which is with aims and aspirations to move to a bigger stadium and to use that as a vehicle to generate extra revenue is almost certainly to vote in favour.
Our next stories, Kieran, 2 of them, are about FIFA and the World Cup. The first one, I have to say, has some words in it that were so new to me, I found myself shaking the laptop computer screen because I thought there was some kind of Etch-a-Sketch thing going on here that maybe I could get rid of these words because I'll read them out, Kieran, because you'll probably be able to make some sort of sense out of them, Alan Turing, Bletchley style. So anyway, here we go. FIFA has signed a deal with ADI Predictstreet, which makes that company the World Cup's official prediction market partner. Now, our official World Cup prediction is it's going to be a fucking disaster. But I don't know what ADI Predictstreet do. I don't know why FIFA needs somebody to predict stuff for them. I predict that giving Donald Trump the World Peace Award is going to come back and bite them in the bum, but beyond that, who knows?
Yes, what we have seen in the last 2 or 3 years is that following a change in statute in the United States, there has been an explosion of the gambling industry. Gambling was outlawed outside of casinos to a large extent, but those rules have been relaxed. And in tandem with that, we now have something which it sort of is gambling, but it isn't quite. And it's predictions. And you can go into one of these prediction companies and you can try to predict anything. You can predict, if you want, who's going to get the first throw in at a football match, which of you might have 2 politicians giving speeches, which one is going to be the first one to say the word artichoke in a speech, and so on. And they really are a mug's game, because what happens is that you either say this is going to happen or this isn't going to happen, and the prediction companies effectively line up the pros and the cons, the fors and the against, and on the basis of that they work out what the odds are, and then the event happens or doesn't happen. They don't actually run a book in the traditional sense. They say, right, everybody that got that particular issue correct, you get the money that was put in, and the prediction company takes a percentage. The problem with that is that if you have any insider information whatsoever, you are always going to win. And there is certainly suggestions that with some of the more global events that we have seen in geopolitics, in business, and sometimes in sport, that having a little bit of insider knowledge can make you incredibly wealthy on the back of this. And FIFA hasn't traditionally had a bookmaker partner, but ADI Predictstreet, which is based, I believe, in Abu Dhabi, has a license from Gibraltar, and hasn't yet got round to having a website, but minor things, has signed this deal to be the official prediction market partner. Now, this means that it can predict such things as what's going to be the starting 11 for a team. Is such and such a player going to be substituted? And it really does open the opportunities for people to become market makers, market exploiters, and so on. I would advise anybody thinking of doing this is that unless you have insider knowledge yourself, avoid like the plague, because you're up against the professionals. You're up against the AI bots. You're up against people and institutions and organisations that do have a competitive balance advantage, and they will always win. But some people like to back their hunches. Some people like to effectively wager on things which are perhaps a little bit more left field, and ultimately it's their money to lose.
I hope this company gets a website soon, Kieran, because a mate of mine is doing 20 minutes at the National Artichoke Awards next week. I suspect. It sort of is gambling. I mean, on Saturday, I will go into my local betting shop and I will write on a piece of paper the name of a horse I predict will win the Grand National. And previous experience will tell me that it probably won't, but it is gambling. I don't understand, Kieran. Why would FIFA sign a deal with, which is obviously a very new company? What did FIFA get out of this, apart from having another name to squeeze on the letter-headed paper?
Money. FIFA, all that FIFA is interested in at present is maximising its income. I think the days when FIFA had a moral or ethical compass are long gone. We have seen this not just with ticketing, not just the tokens that it was offering, which seem to have gone very, very quiet over the course of recent months, but also in terms of car parks, transportation, merchandise. And yes, I was asked at the weekend, because I think we've seen, is it John Swinney, the leader of the Scottish Parliament, he's officially writing to FIFA about it, but we're not seeing anything from the football associations. Where is the FA in all of this? And of course, the FA can't turn around and say, yes, we think that there is a case that fans are being exploited, when it's charging up to £150 for a New England shirt. So nobody's in a position to take a moral high ground on any of this, and you just have to accept that is the modern world that we're living in. And it's not necessarily one that you can be particularly proud of.
Well, to the World Cup itself, Kieran, and a lot of countries taking part could be losing a lot of money because they're caught up in a dispute between state and federal tax in the United States.
That's right. Historically, FIFA has acted on behalf of, effectively been a shop steward for all of the countries that are participating in the International World Cup. And FIFA says, well, we're a charity and the FIFA World Cup is a charitable activity. And as part of the negotiations in order to host the World Cup and to get approval for hosting the World Cup, there's been a blanket tax exemption, and that's applied for players, that's applied for football associations, and so on. But it looks as if that has not been the case for the FIFA 2026 World Cup. And as a consequence, individual countries and football associations could now be liable for money that they earn from individual matches, because there is prize money, there is appearance money given to players as well. And it's going to mean that whether you are Cape Verde or Qatar or whoever the country is going to be, you could be liable for tax on the money which is being generated. And there's many people taking the view that everybody's going to be making money from the tournament. That's not always the case. And it could therefore mean that on a netto basis, and remember we were talking about why net is far more interesting than gross if you're a player. It could be that on a net basis, some individual football associations, they've worked out how much they're going to spend on transport and accommodation, they've agreed the player pool and so on, and now they could end up with a negative cash return from the tournament.
And what's the situation then for clubs that are based purely in Mexico and Canada for group games?
I think they're fine.
Right.
I think that will be less of an issue, but the chances of you playing all of your matches in Mexico or Canada is actually fairly remote, because it is a bit of a zigzag tournament, and of course once you reach the knockout phase, you could be going anywhere.
It's interesting, this one, though, Kieran, because back in the early days when we were talking about the World Cup, Mr. Infantino and Mr. Trump were very clear on this. That, in fact, it probably wouldn't have been Trump, it would have been Biden when we first started talking about the World Cup. But Infantino was particularly clear that the usual rules would apply, that FIFA would be a charity in America, and the Americans said, well, we're not, it's a very different sort of country. And so for once, Infantino hasn't been able to ride roughshod over a country's internal government, even with the support of Mr. Trump.
Yeah, we don't know how much of this has been the focus of President Trump or President Infantino. They do seem to be quite distracted by other events. Infantino has been justifying the prices for tickets by saying that had it not been for these prices, 150 countries in the world wouldn't play football, which, given that these prices didn't exist in previous World Cups, which were much smaller events, it doesn't seem to add up, according to my investigation of the numbers. I'm probably wrong and he's right, of course.
I just playfully laughed that off, Kieran. I couldn't even think of a scathing reply to indicate how... No, you're right. I'm on your side. I think we all agree with that.
Starting or growing your own business can be intimidating and lonely at times. Your to-do list may feel endless with new tasks, and lists can easily begin to overrun your life. So finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything as a built-in business partner can be a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Gymshark, Rare Beauty, and Heinz, to brands just getting started. Shopify has hundreds of ready-to-use templates that can help you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. And you can tackle all the important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites or try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. And if people haven't heard about your brand, you can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you, with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns to reach customers wherever they're scrolling or strolling. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing... Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. That's shopify.com/realm.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Details emerging of Newcastle United's training ground sponsorship deal.
Yes, this is from a hydration company. And I think it's a multi-year deal worth about £16 million. It does show that Newcastle are making efforts and are achieving success. And this is on the back of qualifying for the Champions League for 2 years out of 3. This is what people are forgetting. The cynics say that Newcastle is only getting involved in companies sort of connected closely or indirectly to Saudi Arabia, but that doesn't appear to be the case. And from the environment of SCR, which will be inhabiting from the 1st of July 2026, this can only be a positive. Why anybody would want to sponsor a training ground has always slightly baffled me, but I guess there are benefits, and then you've got sort of the training kit sponsor as well, and clubs are looking at all eventualities from the perspective of revenue maximisation. That is very much the buzzword as far as the boardroom and the marketing department and advertising and commercial are concerned.
When you say hydration, Kieran, are you talking here about irrigation in parched areas of the world or players' skin?
I think it's posh water.
Oh, posh water. Okay.
Posh, yes.
That's
Yes,
what you,
for
that's
me,
what you carry about with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and given that I only ever drink water, I know a good water when I see one. But even I balk when you now have sommeliers at some restaurants for the water. I go, mate, I know a lot about water. It's all I drink, and you're talking a load of baloney.
I'm sorry, Kieran. Say that again. They have sommeliers for the water.
Oh yes.
This is Sussex, I presume we're talking about.
No, I think it's that they're London.
Right. I see. So when you have fish, you obviously want some sort of water to match the environment from which the fish emerged. Is that what you're saying? Just a little touch of sauce and salt in the water too?
It's natural salts, not.
Oh no, none of you added salt. No,
No.
I shouldn't think you go to any sort of restaurant where
They nip out the saxo.
Exactly. Water sommelier. So do they have different sommeliers for sparkly and as well as the still?
I don't know, Kevin. I'm a purist. It's still only for me. I turn my nose up. I'm a legacy water drinker.
You carry your own water with you, which I admire
I do, yes.
greatly. It's the stewards at Brighton are so busy looking out for blokes bringing in little miniatures of whiskey, they overlook the man carrying in his own barrel of water. They're costing them a fortune. You could be getting specially hydrated Brighton fish water there, straight out of the Brighton sea life, straight through a sock into a bottle, and you're bringing your own water in with it straight from the tap. We're seeing a lot of clubs posting losses this season, Kieran. On the face of it, Everton's doesn't seem that massive.
Yeah, Everton posted just under a £9 million loss, and people go, "Oh, that's all right." And again, initially you see the press release, and then you sort of read it on a line by line basis, and Everton sold their women's team to themselves last year, and that generated a 30-40 million pound of profit. So the losses would have been greater, but once again, this is acting within the rules. I've got a lot of sympathy for Everton because their wage bill is effectively no higher than it was 7 or 8 years ago. Their wage bill is probably around about half of that of some of the more elite brands that we see in the Premier League, and yet Everton have a points deduction. If you're looking for fairness as far as the punishment is concerned, it's difficult to feel anything other than sympathy. And I've been on a few Everton podcasts in the last week or so, and the victory over Chelsea was one which was very bittersweet. I've never seen Hill Dickinson in such feisty mode, but that was on the back of the Chelsea small fine decision, whereas Everton did have an on-field punishment and could have been relegated. So yes, they have lost money, but the disturbing thing is all of the clubs are losing money. Some are managing to turn that into a small profit on the back of player sales. I think the only club that's made sort of what you call a genuine profit last season, and it's been, there's been 15, 20 clubs. I've been in spreadsheet heaven over the past 7 to 8 days. I think is Luton Town, and their reward for making a profit is to be relegated back to back. So this is the classic paradox of football. Is it a business, an industry, or is it an executive toy stroke trophy asset? We've had this discussion many a times. The only club that was probably ever sustainable in the Premier League was Newcastle United under Mike Ashley, and that's because he showed absolutely no ambition and managed to completely disenfranchise a significant proportion of the fan base.
This next story, Kieran, I was going to suggest it might cheer up anxious Tottenham fans. I don't actually know any anxious Tottenham fans. I know one who's vaguely thinks they might go down. All the other Tottenham fans I know, for some reason, probably a lot of them have got a late charge into Europe on their minds. Not just because they've got your ex loose cannon floating around the place now, but it's just relegation simply isn't on their radar. But for that one Tottenham friend of mine who is half anxious, this is some news to cheer him up, Kieran.
Well, yes, such was the success that Spurs had in season 24-25, and it has to be remembered that they won the Europa League and they qualified for the Champions League, that the board of directors at Tottenham decided that was an achievement, and it was, and as a consequence of that, Daniel Levy was the highest paid director in season 24-25 with remuneration of 5.75 million. He was the highest paid director the previous season and on many others. I've got all of his pay slips in effect from Companies House going back to when he originally came to Spurs, and I've got a lot of admiration for Daniel Levy on the business side of things. I'm not qualified to talk on the footballing side of things. I absolutely understand where Spurs fans come from. I think on the business side of things, Spurs have been very good for Daniel, and Daniel has been very good for Spurs. And I'd also say that Spurs is at present an entertainment complex, which has a football club as its main element, but it's only just its main element in terms of its ability to revenue generate.
As we've said, Kieran, it is that time of year. It's Christmas for football accountants. Annual figures out from a lot of clubs. Anyone caught your eye?
I wouldn't say sort of individually. I think collectively the concern is the level of losses in the Championship are going to be the highest of all time, with the possible exception of the COVID year, where I think there's a legitimate justification for incurring significant losses. What we have also seen in League One over the course of the last 4 to 5 years is that average losses have tripled. The average club in League One is now losing £120,000 a week. And these are for clubs that are getting, some are getting modest crowds, some get very good crowds. It's still football. You've only got to look at some of the attendances that we've seen in both National League and the EFL over the course of the Easter weekend to just, I think it's absolutely great. Loads of my friends have gone to watch non-league football or lower league football. They've all had a great time, and it is reinforcement that football is not dead. But how does football survive? So I did a piece with BBC Sport on this, and we've said it before. It's a precarious industry to be in. And there's one club that I was aware of last month, and we decided that it wouldn't be appropriate to go public on things like this because I don't want to be accused of scaremongering. One club where the monthly payroll was due to go out on a Thursday at 4 p.m. and at 9 a.m. they didn't have the money to pay the wages, and the finance director had phoned the owner on 2 or 3 occasions. And what happens if the owner is running a different business and gets distracted or doesn't pick up the phone or has got toothache and has had to go to an emergency dentist? It could be something as trivial as that. Or it could be, again, you look at the world today in terms of geopolitics, many people are running businesses in geographical areas where there has been a significant transformation in terms of the hospitality sector, the entertainment sector, and so on, and of therefore finding it far more difficult to generate revenue. That has a knock-on effect if that person also happens to be connected to a football club. So it's just incredibly precarious. And people then say, well, what's the solution? The solution is a complete change in the mindset of everybody connected with the game. And that's never going to happen. The most common question that I get asked, and I'm sure you've been asked this on many times in pubs and similar, is how much money can we spend this summer? What's the limit? And whilst there is this focus on what's the maximum amount of overspend, that means that clubs are going to be losing money. And that means that they're going to be reliant upon the benevolence of owners and the ability of owners to be able to to provide the cash which is required to meet the bills on a monthly basis. But the level of losses and the extent of losses, which is almost universal, not quite, is something which is very scary.
Yeah, I get asked those questions in pubs. You get asked them on BBC News. That's the difference in status between the two of us. You're not dropping a hint there, Kieran, talking about club owners with toothache, that you might be one of our secret club owners, right?
No, because this come from one of our secret agents.
Oh, did it? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I know. I'm aware you have to be somewhere, Kieran. So let's get these stories done. Aston Villa have done that issuing one share thing that confuses me so much.
Yes, this is where the owners don't want to change the makeup. You know, if you've got a club with got 1 million shares and they're split 80-20, and one of the shareholders wants to put money in but wants to retain that 80-20 split between the owners, then you just issue one share for a large sum of money. So in the case of Villa, who have put a link on their website to where companies' house is, but not put the accounts up, which I find quite wry. They issued one share for 22 million, and this was good. You know, this was again done on the 23rd of March, a week before payday. There's absolutely nothing wrong with owners putting in the money. It helps to maintain the balance of ownership between the different groups attached to a company.
This is a club that are not normally on your naughty step, Kieran. Fulham.
Yes, it's that exact same issue as we've seen at Villa. It's a club that isn't publishing its results, but says it's publishing its results, and it's just an irritant. We're talking about billionaires who've been very successful, and it's just a case of one-upmanship. They like to put out data. They like to put out to comply with the Premier League rules, and the Premier League rules say that by 9 months after your accounting year end, your financial year end, which is the day you must submit, you must put out something as far as the club's website is concerned. Either publish the accounts or a link to the accounts, or you put out something to do with the accounts. And some clubs are taking that to extremes. Probably nobody is taking it to the extreme as Birmingham City, who said, we've got record revenues for a club in League One and nothing else. Going back to the mantra of all people in finance that revenue is vanity and profit is sanity. No reference, have they made profits or losses? What are the wages? What's the total spend on players? They just show the top line numbers. And I don't really think that's fair on fans. I'm not bothered about people like me. We'll get them eventually.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You tell yourself, no one wants your college-era band tees. But on Depop, people are searching for exactly what you've got. You once paid a small fortune for them at merch stands. Now, a teenager who calls them vintage will offer that same small fortune back. Sell them easily on Depop. Just snap a few photos and we'll take care of the rest. Who knew your questionable music taste would be a money-making machine? Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
I'm going to tease fans of Dagenham and Redbridge here, Kieran, and fans of Harrow Borough by saying we're not going to get round to their story, but they're good stories. So you can relax over the weekend. You don't have to be biting your fingernails. We will cover them, I promise you, in our next questions pod. We'll start with these two questions at the start. But we'll finish, Kieran, with Salford City, and we forget that the class of 92 are no longer involved at all in Salford City, but they parted with a generous gesture.
That's right. I think Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt and Phil Neville are no longer involved. Gary's still there. I think David Beckham has come in. But also the Singapore businessman Peter Lim, who I think he owned 50% of the club, and the other 50% was owned by the class of 92. That was sort of the original corporate structure. They have pulled out of the club. They've decided to move on. And I was in a studio with Paul Scholes, and he said when they originally did it, they thought it was going to cost them 250 grand each. Subsequently, it cost them a hell of a lot more. So they've all written off, and this includes the loans from Peter Lim, who was the biggest single contributor. But they've written off as a farewell gesture to Salford City Football Club £31.5 million in loans, and they said, good luck for the future. We don't think we're in a position to be able to provide additional funding. So now it's down to Gary Neville, David Beckham, and the new third party owners.
It's down to David Beckham then, isn't it? Basically. Don't forget, you can now join our Price of Football Club, where you'll get ad-free listening, access to our full back catalogue, bonus episodes, Zoom quiz invites, and more. Just go to priceoffootball.com, click on Join the Club to sign up today. We'll be issuing a date for our next Q&A meeting very soon, Kieran. We owe you one. We're all with that. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter, you can find us on YouTube, and if you want to buy our books or one of our T-shirts, go to that very same website, priceoffootball.com. We'll be back on Tuesday with our next questions episode, plus Harrow and Dagenham and Redbridge. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
Well, as always, thank you for the interaction. Thank you for holding us to account when we get things wrong. And we're the first to admit we'll do things wrong, which apparently is not what you're supposed to do. Apparently you're supposed to double down if you get something wrong. But I just don't think that's a very sensible approach. And to everybody at the club for their support. We are conscious that we owe you one. I disappeared to Chicago for a week. I know as club members, you will know that for the sake of my marriage, it probably wouldn't have been a good idea, especially with the UK being 5 hours ahead of Chicago time. I'd said to the Baroness one afternoon, just going off to go and see the lads and the lasses at the club. Probably. But I will make it up to you. There's a variety of ways that you can support the club, and one of those is to give us a review. It's to pop along to your app. Give us 30 seconds of your time, and doesn't matter what you say. You could even say you would rather have the show presented by two stalwarts of the great city of London, two original people from London, David Beckham and Kathy Burke.
Oh my God.
That would be a great show.
I'd love that. She's fantastic, Kathy.
I love Kathy to bits.
She is hilarious. She's exactly what she does exactly what she says on the tin, that woman. She's fantastic. Poor old Dave wouldn't get her looking, would he? She just keeps saying, what are you combing your hair for? Still leave your hair alone. Stop it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Price of Football. The Price of Football.